Hi, I'm Karlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Karlin Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, karlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Hey guys, there I am. Welcome to a little impromptu stream where Trump and Desantis influencers are currently fighting on Twitter. Their Twitter space has just started. Laura Loomer is accusing a sock account of being Ron DeSantis' press secretary. And let me just bring this up. We're doing an impromptu stream for this.
Oh, my DMs are not working.
Laura
so
Loomer has basically just said that.
I mean, there's just not much to it. Like, we're different people.
This Max Udo guy.
Tons of people have like talked to us both.
Where?
Confirmed we're different people.
They're all DeSantis influencers. They
this
all
guy
have
right
to be
here.
Hey, can you silence her, please?
Is DeSantis' press secretary and Laura Loomer's acting foolish?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're different people, and like, I mean, Loomer, I encourage you to like just keep pushing this for the next few weeks because like it'll just make it even more humiliating.
It's just great
when you're proven wrong.
Thank you guys for validating
also the
me. I appreciate it.
Everything, like reference where
I have no idea what's going to happen.
I've never referenced where I've gone to college, so you just made that up as well. So like this is kind of crazy, but I do encourage you to spend a lot of time on this. So that's all. I think.
But can I, Max?
Yeah.
Max, can I ask if I have a question for you though,
Yeah.
Max? So here's the thing. If I'm just saying this is an option, right? You don't have to
I really should.
If I were
in real
being
life
accused of being a press secretary, but I wasn't, I would say, hey, dear Mr. Press Secretary, how about you get your ass over here?
Oh yeah, no, I messaged
Right?
him. Yeah, no, I messaged him and I said let's do a space, but he's pretty busy. I mean,
yeah.
that's the thing about
Why
Loomer,
can't
she's
you
like-
both
she's
be in
like,
the
oh, they
same
direct
place
all
at the
the
same
resources.
time?
No,
That's
they-
a great
they gave
question.
one
Oh my
statement.
God! But listen to this. It's an admission.
Can you?
It's an admission. You messaged him, but he's really busy. He's not that busy. He has a lot of time to attack me and other people on Twitter all day.
Oh, I mean, I
He's that
messaged him to
busy.
come to. I messaged him to. He hasn't mentioned you. But I
Oh,
mentioned.
he's so busy.
Can he- So Max, have you messaged him to come here? He's able to come today. I know he's not that busy. So can you message him to come again today, please?
Yes.
Well, I would
Ask
say
him
it's
right
200.
now.
I mean,
He told me he's at,
no.
I messaged him. He's at dinner.
Pretty important for him to come out.
Why would you even have
completely
his
unimportant.
contact
What
information?
Loomer
You're a
is openly
sock
just
account
trying
on
to
Twitter.
distract, the
Why would
presidential
you
campaign.
have his
Oh,
contact
you guys are
information?
already distracted. You have a losing candidate. Come on, let's stop pretending like Ron DeSantis
I mean, this is what's really going on here.
It's
Like,
true.
Loomer's crazy.
You
She's a
sound
liar. She
guilty.
made this
You're
all
just
up.
using ad hominem
Loomer,
attacks. You're using ad hominem attacks.
Loomer, I encourage you to go down this next
Yeah,
month,
I am
because
gonna
when
keep
it's eventually
going.
proven wrong.
All right. Then
You
we'll
know
be
why
no
I'm gonna
talking
keep
over
going
each
down
other.
this path?
Max, continue.
Because I'm
and
gonna
then-
make
and then we'll
sure.
go from there.
I'm gonna make sure.
Okay. Just going to continue what I just said. Max, you're going to go ahead here at this point, and then we'll go back to you, Laura.
Trying to make it
I do
thumbnail
want to
right now.
ask though, Max, how do you intend upon proving what she is saying is untrue? How in the next month will it be proven untrue?
It's a great question.
I mean, I asked him to do a space. We'll see.
We'll see.
So-
We'll see. I don't know. He's so busy.
He's too busy putting another Pride video together. That was great.
Hey, Lev,
I mean, he is pretty busy. So
I'm going to ask Lev. Lev, you know Ron DeSantis. Have you ever met Brian Griffin?
I was muted. No, I've never met Brian Griffin.
look, it's theoretically possible that all the people who have heard my voice and have heard Brian's voice are lying, but it's really more likely that Loomer is just being crazy and going down a rabbit hole.
Laura
Oh my
Loomer
God.
can be
It's
crazy,
just all
and
he
you
says
can
is
also
Well, I'm
be
curious.
crazy.
I
Both
gotta
those
go.
things
I
can
gotta
be
go.
true. Oh,
You haven't shown any evidence. So
Okay,
I
Max,
gotta go.
Max, I just want to say something.
gotta go.
Max,
Bye.
after you go, can you tell Brian to come in after you go?
No, he has a no. Like, that's not how it works.
Oh my God!
My time is free. He's a lot more. He has a lot less free time than I do.
You have like a speech impediment.
I hope this isn't over before I finish the
or a
thumbnail.
nervous stutter.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
I
This
am
is
going to
really-
keep it up. I am going to keep it up.
I
'cause
want
By the
guess
way,
what?
by the
I'm
way,
a lot
the
more
account
than-
I'm
is
saving
the
all your
account is
tweets.
just for what it's
Yeah.
I want you to never stop doing this because it's going
I'm
to be
never
so
going to
funny.
stop, Max. I'm never going to stop. I'm never
know.
going to stop. It's going to be your worst nightmare.
By
Trust
the,
me.
by the way, the account is shared with DeSantis.
No,
people.
Charles, you're gonna have to wait,
Yeah.
sir.
No,
Please, we already have.
I'm the only one.
We already
Yeah,
have
I'm the only
chaos.
one. Yeah, I'm the only one who operates this account. I always have been. So that's my other on the record statement. So
So
I gotta
I
go
just
now.
want- I
but
just wanna
that's
say-
all.
Okay, and I'm gonna say to you publicly what I said to you in the DMs. It would be in Ron DeSantis's best interest to have a representative here to present his side, because
Mhm.
Laura
If
doesn't have a
yeah.
problem presenting her side. So
If
that's
That is a
rumors
good
not
point.
true,
Point
if
for
rumors not
Loomer.
true, it's really easy to prove.
Why don't you ask Christina?
Yeah, I mean,
Persson?
there's a video.
Have Christina
there's a
come
video.
on.
Look, there's a video that has our voices side by side, and well, I guess some people would say they sound similar. They're clearly not the same.
They
So,
are the
have a good
same.
night, everybody. All
Bye.
right, well,
Have
best-
fun,
best of
Lion.
luck.
Bye, Brian. Have fun, Brian. Tell Christina I said hi. Bye, Brian.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, Brian. Have fun making another homophobic and transphobic video that's going to piss off everybody. Have fun. Bye. And this time, actually leave, because you said you had to leave. Don't just leave and then come back 5 minutes. Bye, Brian.
No, please come back. Please come back. We just got here. I don't want to
Okay,
stop
now let's
streaming
go to
yet.
Charles. I know your hands up.
Charles.
Yeah, just so you guys know, I've run the voices through different biometrics programs that the government uses, and it's the same voice. Just to be clear about it.
And just so
So-
everybody knows, Charles isn't full of shit on this, because he was one of the founding I guess what the term would be, what would you call it? Founding
Founders of-
advisory members for Clearview, that artificial intelligence company that the federal government utilizes to
I'm gonna do a
track
poll
people
in a
and do
second.
facial recognition and biometric surveillance. Yeah, Charles has access to this.
Do you
because
believe
he
that
was
that
a part
guy
of
is
the,
really Ron DeSantis' press
original,
secretary?
I guess what would you call it, Chuck? I don't want to.
Yeah, it was the part of the founding team. But the
Founding
key
team
thing,
of
the
Clearview
key thing to
AI.
know about this is that what he's doing is a crime, and it's an FEC violation. And we know that they share
It's a fair point.
the account among a lot of the DeSantis staffers, and that the accounts are artificially boosted by servers and bots within Israel. which is not a good thing.
Within
So he's
Israel?
going to get in some serious trouble.
How do they know that?
Another
Not
reason
unlike
why
Mario,
this is a
by the way.
crime. Another reason this is a crime, Sphinx. And listen, I just want to say I appreciate you giving me a time to speak, but the difference between me and these other people is I have absolutely no problem putting out the evidence that I have found and having a conversation. I don't just attack people with personal insults. I think that it's very telling when somebody is guilty. What do? They try saying, oh, this person's crazy. It's a tactic that was used by communists, okay? It's a tactic that has been used by fascists in the past and dictatorial regimes to discredit people that are speaking truth. They like to say this person's crazy, and I'm not crazy.
You are
I have
crazy,
done
Laura.
serious damage to
Doesn't
the
mean you're
Ron
wrong.
DeSantis campaign. And I'm just telling you, if they are such a serious presidential campaign, why did they direct their entire influencer team several days ago to jump on this? And also, isn't it a little weird that all of them have the same talking points? And that talking point is, I've broken bread with Max and Brian before, and I know they're
Well, hold on
Why
a second.
does that
You
guy
brought
have
up-
a sock
somebody
account
brought up
connected to the
Bitcoin,
DeSantis campaign?
Caviar, bro. I'm gonna throw your ass down because you were throwing thumbs down and you follow me, and I don't care. So don't throw thumbs down and request again, and I'll bring you back up. Please don't throw thumbs down when someone's talking on the stage. If they're talking about something serious, it's disrespectful because I see it. Okay, we'll bring you right back up.
Yeah,
okay?
and
Thank
so
you.
I just want to say that the reason why they're freaking out is because this is a crime. Because what we found is that, as we all know, Ron DeSantis was running for president prior to officially filing paperwork. And Rupert Murdoch's publishing company, Rupert Murdoch owns HarperCollins Publishing, and that's HarperCollins is the company that gave Ron DeSantis his book deal. And we already know that Rupert Murdoch, from previous reports, invited Ron DeSantis out to his ranch in California and told him that Fox was completely behind him. This is why Trump Super PAC and other individuals, including Nikki Fried, and look, I'm not a Democrat. I've always been a Republican. Well, tired of the Republican Party. I just, I'm registered Republican so that I can vote in primaries, which, because I live in Florida, it's a closed primary state. But regardless, this is an FEC violation. And it's also a crime when you are soliciting for a candidate or campaigning for a candidate with your official device that is given to you or that is paid for by taxpayer funds if you're working for an incumbent, whether that be a congressman or a governor. You are not allowed to mix your official campaign business with your official gubernatorial taxpayer funded office. And so if the entire press team has access to this account, then what that suggests is that they were actually engaging in campaign
She thinks
activities
the entire press
before
team has
Ron
access
DeSantis
to a
was
stock
officially
account on
filed.
Twitter.
And given the fact that they only recently transitioned to the campaign, that would mean that they were on their taxpayer funded time, of course, pushing out campaign messaging on these devices that may or may not be paid for. And I know that Chuck agrees with me. If there were to be a records request or some kind of advanced IP tracing on these communications, I'm sure that you would find that tweets in support of Ron DeSantis's campaign and tweets attacking President Trump and soliciting for Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign were sent out from inside his office in Tallahassee where these people work. And that's a crime. You can go to jail for that. And so this isn't just like, oh, I'm trying to, expose somebody for supporting Ron DeSantis. There is also, look, and you don't have to agree with Rebecca Jones to think that this is pretty crazy. Rebecca Jones, who was notoriously, had a lot of conflict with Ron DeSantis, and as the story goes, says that her home was raided, and that she has accused Ron DeSantis of weaponizing state law enforcement against her because she says that she blew the whistle on COVID information. Regardless of whether you agree with her narrative or not, what's really interesting is that recently her son had to turn himself in. And by the way, Chuck says that he just got deleted from the space. He wants to be re-added.
He's not deleted.
Okay, sorry. He just messaged me. Her son recently, who's a minor.
So Laura, I do have
Happy
one
birthday,
question
Grandma
for you,
Nay.
which is,
Have a great rest of your
you're
night.
alleging here, of course, FEC violations. You don't have to disclose this if you don't want to, but have you reported those?
Have I reported which element of it? Because there's
The apparent, what you believe to be FEC code violations, have you reported that to the FEC, or is that just an allegation?
Well, we're putting together a report, and Chuck the other day posted a reporting mechanism for people to not only report this to the FEC and the FBI, and we're in the process of preparing an official report to send in as well. So, Chuck, you can go back and look at the tweet that he posted, and you'll see that I retweeted this as well, because this is criminal in nature. Because what we're finding, and there's other people who believe that they have been victimized by this account because of information that they have sent to the Ron DeSantis press team while he was governor. One of the clear-cut examples of this is Rebecca Jones. Her son recently had to turn himself in because there was a story that he had threatened to carry out a school shooting. Well, what ended up happening is the surveillance footage from this was requested by Ron DeSantis's press team, and then the Max Nordau account tweeted it literally 1 minute after it was sent to the press team.
I saw her document
that
this.
screenshot.
This was incriminating.
I think it's really bizarre that you have a screenshot of an internal press
I agree with
communication
Loomer.
that was received from a records request
Words I
that
never
shows
thought I'd say.
Jeremy Redfern, and of course we know that Jeremy Redfern follows the Max Nordau account, as does Christina Pushaw, and Jeremy Redfern is also a
They
press
follow
secretary
that
for Ron
account?
DeSantis in his office. And then 1 minute later, literally
No.
1 minute later, the video ends up being posted on Max Nordau's account. How would that be possible unless this was an account that was shared by the Ron DeSantis press team? And yeah, of course they have one individual whose voice is dedicated to going on these spaces because it allows for plausible deniability, right? When people think that it's Christina or when people think that it's Jeremy, and then multiple people can post. Everybody knows this. As long as you have the username and the password for a Twitter account, anybody can post on it. It's not like Twitter is limited to only one person posting on an account, right? Everybody knows this, especially if you have experience in doing media for other people. Like I used to work for Project Veritas,
And there's
one of the things I did.
as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I.
So I wanted to also say, Charles, I did invite you back up. I don't know why it's glitching. But Laura, I do want to let Croaky go because
That's fine. You can let him go, but I just wanted to tell people that those screenshots are available.
Oh, I'm going to come back to you. Don't worry. I just want to go ahead.
My question is more for Laura because I don't know Max. He follows me now and I follow him. But did you bother to look at the actual dates that the accounts were started or even look at the previous tweets from that account?
And that's another lie.
Okay.
That's another lie that Max has just been caught in because he said that nobody else has ever managed the account. And it looks like this account was purchased because, as we know, people in the past have been able to purchase usernames before. And if you go back and you look at the tweet history, there's a lot of tweets that are written in Spanish. So it looks like the account holder was somebody else. And so,
it's so
if you go back and you listen to the recording
and that's why
of
it's
this
nitwits.
space,
We
Max
love this
lied
shit.
again,
Come on.
right? Brian lied again because he said that nobody else
This
has
is presidential
ever run the
politics
account.
right here.
It's not true.
Glorious.
I don't know.
Well,
I've
I
actually
guess
reviewed
one question I would.
once you start. Once you started with the whole Max's Brian Griffin thing, I looked back and looked at old tweets and stuff from Max. I don't know what you're talking about, Spanish ones. I do know that it's the same person consistently from 2013.
It's actually not, but like I said, we have all of those.
Yes, I'm telling you right now, I've reviewed the tweets. If you want to,
this is the question I have right now for Laura on this. Is you said that it had the Spanish account first was bought. I mean, that does happen. There are people that buy up other usernames, but do you have actual proof that someone was using the account through TweetDeck or any other means to put out tweets through like an actual
God bless America.
Intelligence review?
We have another year of this bullshit.
Go ahead, Laura.
A full goddamn year of this bullshit.
Sorry, I don't really understand what you're asking towards the end. You said, do we have evidence of what? It's kind of muffled.
Do you have evidence that actually the different people? Sorry, I'm in my Porsche right now, so a little bit loud. So
I'm in
do you have
my
any
Porsche.
evidence of the people, as you say, using the multiple people using the accounts as in different language being used per tweet, different variations in the
there's there are tweets that go back, I believe, all the way to 2012. I have to pull it up because, like I said, I mean, there's thousands of screenshots, and I'm not the only person that's been working on this investigation. But yeah, there's tweets that show other languages from this account. And perhaps it was purchased at a later time. But the fact of the matter is that there's too many coincidences with Brian Griffin's previous working history and his employment history and the persona behind the Max Nordau character, right? And we've laid this out in a thread, and it's convincing. Look, I have reporters.
Just real quick though, I think you slightly misunderstood my question. So what I'm asking isn't about the Spanish part, because I get that. That's after the account was purchased. My question is more or less, do you have
cutting out?
Your audio is bad. Chet, your audio is not good.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Nobody can hear you.
I would leave and come back. Also, please check your iPhone text, because I cannot DM on this app. What was I gonna say? Okay. And Charles, we'll keep trying to bring you back up. I'm sorry for the glitches. And if anybody wants to come up, my DMs aren't working on this app. Please check other ways of communicating if you communicate with me in other ways. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Go ahead. Who was speaking?
I was letting Laura speak.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the question that I'm asking isn't about like the Spanish level part of it. The question that I'm asking is, after it was purchased, do you have proof that other people were using the account through difference in language of the English side?
What I'm saying about the language is that Max just said on the space that nobody else has ever utilized the account because it's his account and he's the one that created it. But there are tweets that go back, I believe, till 2012, perhaps earlier. I believe it's 2012. I have to pull it up. That show tweets in Spanish language, and so the tweets that were being made were all in Spanish. So it's just not true for him to say, "Oh, well, this was only my account. I'm the only operator of the account, and nobody else has ever utilized the account." That's just not true. And then,
but just for the sake of clarity, the one thing I guess that does disprove directly, the one thing it disproves is the claim that he created the account. It would say he bought the account.
I'm not saying that he bought it. I'm saying that what this shows is that this account, which I do believe is utilized by other members of the Ron DeSantis press team.
We don't have any bias here against anything besides the truth, and I just want to make sure that we're verifying kind of what's being said. And so far, I mean, you are able to say that you have proof that he has utilized the account from someone else that he bought it from. I just don't know yet that we have proof that there were other people using the account as well after he bought it.
I want to ask Lev or anyone else, what do you think, and Laura after Lev, please, what do you think are the implications if this turned out to be true? What would that, I imagine that these, every single tweet that the Max Nordau character has sent would be scrutinized on a different level. What do you think, Lev? I'm curious, since you know DeSantis, but you also have been in the political sphere. What do you think the implications that would have?
Thank you, thanks for having me. Look, I wouldn't put anything past Ron DeSantis. I mean, he goes to any extreme to win. He even, as I stated previously, when we met, and he was worried about my articles coming out about me, for me not to call him on his regular phone, and he gave me a burner phone number to speak to. So he'll go to any extent. So as far as that goes, I also don't think he has a chance of winning. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job themselves of destroying their own campaign by having Christina and all these guys as their press secretary and running it. But as far as what will the implications, I don't think anything's going to happen of it, unfortunately, the way things run nowadays. I mean, there'll be an investigation, and then it'll get shut down prior to, once he's out of the race. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Well, I'm curious. I don't see Laura. Oh, there you are, Laura. Laura, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, we'll see, right? I agree in that I don't think Ron DeSantis has a chance of winning at all. But and I do agree with Lev in that Ron DeSantis will, like you said, do anything to win, including, I'm sure, turning a blind eye if his staff were breaking the rules and operating these accounts, these burner accounts, to harass Trump supporters. I mean, we've already seen Ron DeSantis had the Florida legislature change the law so that he could keep his job as governor and also run for president after he lied to Floridians and told us that he wanted to serve another term as governor.
That is a really good
So this is
point.
a guy who deals in the art of deception. He's a liar. He's a con man. He's a fraud. And
I don't trust
think
Ron
that
DeSantis
we've
as far as
seen
I can throw him.
that he's
I'm on
also no
Loomer's side
different
on
than Joe
that.
Biden in that he's willing to weaponize political agencies and weaponize the government
Yes.
in an effort to silence his
statist.
opposition.
Yes, he
There are
is.
many people who have
Loomer's
talked
not wrong.
openly about how Ron DeSantis and his staff have threatened them. There were, as of recently, reports that came out of Tallahassee that showed that in his office. So we already know, right? We already know that his office is doing things that I'm accusing them of, and that is mixing the official taxpayer-funded office with his campaigning, because lobbyists were told, hey, if you don't donate to Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign, we're going to cut you off and you're not going to have access to the governor. That's so illegal. That's so illegal. And that was a verified media report that came out in print a couple weeks ago. You can go look it up yourself. I believe it was either NBC or Politico. And we see this constantly where all these people who got appointments from Ron DeSantis, or all these people that were given, board positions by Ron DeSantis, are now holding fundraisers for him. And so it's very it's evidence of quid pro quo, and it's evidence of weaponized government, which is what Republicans constantly attack Joe Biden for. So what are we going to do? Put a Republican in that weaponizes the government as opposed to somebody like Joe Biden? I don't really see what the long-term game plan here is. But yeah, Ron DeSantis also would call for an investigation, maybe with FDLE, but we already know that FDLE has also been politicized. That stands for Florida Department of Law Enforcement, to be used for Ron DeSantis and his attacks on Florida citizens and his political opposition. So unless there was a separate investigation done by maybe, I don't know, the DOJ, but the DOJ is also corrupt, I don't really see how anybody's going to be held accountable, especially since Ron DeSantis has gotten away with a lot of crimes, especially FEC crimes. I mean, the guy's been running an illegal shadow campaign. Okay, the people on his path are openly coordinating with his campaign staff, which is illegal.
I don't disagree with Loomer.
If anybody else were to do this, they would be going to jail. But he seems to be protected.
Well, Gerald
because
might
so
be a
many
bit of a
people
stretch,
hate Donald
but
Trump that it's like, okay, well, if this is the guy that in their minds and their cooked up fantasy they think has the best shot of defeating Trump, they're going to give him a pass. And it's unfortunate because Ron DeSantis loves to brag and say he's the law and order candidate, but he's absolutely not the law and order candidate. He's the bend the rules, and I'm going to do what I want, even if it's a crime, so that I can get to the top candidate. That's what Ron DeSantis does. And that's why I don't like him.
What was that comment? Sorry, say that again.
You just described Raheem Kassam. He's here on a visa and he's working directly with the campaign. He has pictures posted. That's a direct FEC violation.
He's not working.
However,
he's not working with the Trump campaign. Raheem Kassam is a journalist.
You realize
Loomer is crazy, but he's also right sometimes.
To Trump Force One from multiple different networks, including mainstream media outlets.
Okay, and you know that coordinating with a campaign and giving any type of back and forth with them is considered an in-kind donation, right?
He is a journalist.
You're aware of that, right?
He interviewed the president.
He's a foreign journalist. However, he is having communications outside of the public with the campaign, directly with the campaign. So I told him that yesterday. He blocked me for mentioning it, and I'm just telling him he's walking a fine line.
That's not the case. He's not, unless he's getting paid by them. He's not getting paid by the campaign.
It does not matter. Actually, he can actually legally work for the campaign. He can't legally contribute to the campaign. So, in other words, as a journalist, providing a resource to them. As a journalist,
providing a resource, he's interviewing the president, and he's actually providing
because
fair
his entire magazine, his entire online magazine, is basically Oppo research when it's not just blatant lies.
So I'm gonna pause. I'm deliberately giving a lot of leeway here for crosstalk back and forth that I'm sure people are noticing I never do. Because this is just, there's no way around this. So I'm just gonna go ahead, please. Just Croaky, finish what you're saying, and then we'll let Laura respond. Go ahead.
Well, like, do you realize who you're supporting in this, and you're calling Ron DeSantis a liar based off of your assumptions, which aren't accurate if you actually do the
Oh
work
my
and
God.
look
No,
into.
I
wrong,
have
I'm
done
just
so much
wrong.
damage.
No. I hate these people are making me
Please,
take
let him
Laura
finish his
Loomer's
statement.
side. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh, no, I mean, if she's going to talk, I'll stop. But the thing, what I'm just trying to say with her is, if it took me like 5 minutes to realize, oh, they're not the same person at all. Not even just the voice thing, which I don't even know what the voice analyzer thing he's talking about. I worked at MI, so I don't know what he's talking about. That it confirms that they're the exact same voice. They're not the same voice. They have different cadence, for one. And the other thing is that if you look at the tweets going back, because so a lot of the tweets are deleted now just because of the fact that some people just delete their past tweets anyway. But you can still find
And
them.
one key thing I do want to point out as well, and I think it's really important for me to say this. Someone who was a former non-commissioned officer in charge of ISR administration for STRATCOM's Air Operations Center, we did yearly training on what's called intelligence oversight. No military intelligence software is permitted for use against U.S. citizens, period.
Correct.
End of story. So that there's absolutely no way that any U.S. intelligence databases from the military intelligence side could have been used to confirm or deny anything in relation to this case.
Yep. And if it was, it's a bigger deal than whatever we're talking about with Max.
That's correct.
And so my issue with it is the fact that the campaign's obviously just going to be dirty for this whole time. But the thing is that when you like, Laura's got like this confirmation for herself. However, just like she's mentioning tweets that I haven't seen that are in Spanish, and hasn't said what the tweets say in Spanish, because it could be he also speaks Spanish if that's the case. He lives in Florida.
That would be
The
an
other thing is
actual
that if you actually
presidential
look at the
campaign,
previous
Aaron. We're
tweets,
not doing
you
that
can actually
tonight. We're
tell
doing
that the person
influencer
who
war.
is Max
Come
is
on.
older than the person who is Brian Griffin. You can clearly tell that from the tweet.
You can't tell how old someone is by their voice.
Okay, but
no.
to be
That is not a good
fair,
argument.
and I'm not saying that they're the same person. I'm not saying that, but to be fair, like, how do we know how old the Max character is? Do we know who he is? I mean,
I don't know his exact age. I'm saying the fact that if you can actually find his old tweets, you'll notice that there's no way they're the same person. I don't want to divulge too much about Max, because I don't know Max. I just know.
Okay, honestly, this just sounds like propaganda. Your account was created in April of 2023.
Right, because my other account, Army Full One, was blocked for. Oh my God.
No, I'm just saying.
So now
you
you're
have
right, Laura. We're all in on this
DeSantis
massive
for
conspiracy.
president in your bio.
okay, stop.
Right.
Croaky, let her
DeSantis
finish.
DeSantis split.
Oh, so are you giving an in-kind contribution by supporting?
So I'm gonna go to Jim because Jim hasn't had a chance to comment on this. Jim, what do you think
I just
about
wanted to
this?
finish what I'd said really quick before I go on.
Oh, I thought you were done.
I
thought you were done. Go ahead.
It's such a ridiculous statement to say that supporting somebody, it's not a crime to do journalism in this country. Last time I checked, we had a First Amendment, or at least I thought we did, press freedom. And Raheem Kassam reporting, even if he decided to do pro-Trump reporting, it's not a crime. It's not a crime to do that. He's not employed by the campaign.
It is if he's coordinating.
It's actually not. It's actually not. It's
it
actually
is 100%. Look up the FEC guidelines.
It's 100%. Unless he's a paid employee of the campaign.
That's false. That's false.
Okay, once again, one person at a time talking because no one can hear both of you at the same time.
Unless he is employed by the campaign and coordinating with the PAC,
I can't hear you.
Sorry, you were breaking up, Laura. Hey, Croaky, why don't you stay on mute? We'll tell Laura she's breaking up. Okay, thank you. Laura, go ahead.
Unless somebody is directly employed by a campaign, okay, and they are coordinating with a PAC, there's nothing illegal about it. Raheem, if he's not an employee of the campaign, is free to talk to whoever he wants to talk to, and he's free to report on it. His podcast, as he just stated, is a podcast to talk about the campaign trail, and he said he's going to be having all types of political operatives and staffers on, who knows, maybe from both campaigns, to talk about all of the candidates running. So this is a guy that used to be, from my understanding, an editor at Breitbart. Okay, he has vast knowledge in in global politics, having worked with Nigel Farage. And it's not like he's some random, British guy. Okay, he has longstanding influence here in this country, especially with conservative media, and he's a well-known conservative journalist. And there's nothing illegal about it. You just don't understand what you're talking about, and you got to stop
I
pretending
love that
like you're an
Vivek
FEC
is like
expert.
flying
It
under
just
the
sounds so
radar of all
stupid.
this bullshit.
You really have no idea what you're talking about. You're basically saying that every single journalist that comes to a Trump event, or every single foreign journalist, and there's a ton of them that go to Trump events, that interviews a staffer and reports something positive about President Trump and doesn't completely bash him nonstop like CNN, is giving the campaign an illegal in-kind contribution. I mean, you just don't understand how stupid that sounds.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that what I said is he's here on a visa, and there's an actual requirement that he has to abide by for the guidelines for FEC. So
how is he not abiding? Can you just explain how
made
he's
it
not
just in
abiding
time
by
for
it
the shit show that never ends.
So his continuous coordination with the campaign directly would be considered an in-kind contribution when it comes to him putting out stories that the campaign
I understand. I understand. Thank you. I'm gonna shelf that for a minute. I want to get Jim's perspective on this Brian versus Max Nordau situation. Jim, welcome back. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. By the way, I'm still trying to process that myself. I hear a lot of banter about. If I may, Sphinx, I want to just quickly speak to the Raheem Kassam thing, just very quickly.
Oh, fuck Raheem Kassam.
Two
Seriously.
issues here. One, I've known Raheem for years when he was writing for Breitbart. Two, I have run FEC campaigns. It is not in the least illegal or wrong for him to write anything on National Pulse that he wants to regarding the campaign, any more than it was illegal for him to do so when he was in Great Britain, not just writing for Breitbart London, but also from time to time commenting on American politics. It's exactly the same thing. The only way that he can do anything illegal in that regard is if he has direct formal coordination with the PAC. Not I talk to them to get their opinion, but have formal coordination with
them. And that's exactly what I just said.
I know that. I'm just Laura, I'm just trying to help you out because I've done this for 30 years.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay. I appreciate that. I'm just reiterating.
Here's what I want to say, Laura.
What I said. Yeah,
I got it, Laura. So here's the deal. To bring up the Raheem Kassam thing and to try to make this into something, because you don't like the fact that he is making points, that he is providing cogent commentary that obviously is.
This is why we're never going to beat the socialists. We just need to all
really
retire.
A waste of your time. Like I am a Trump supporter. I don't dislike Ron. I'm acquainted with him from when I worked on Capitol Hill. I'm not negative on too much of anything that he's done in Florida. Fine. One of these days he may become president.
Kristen Ruby always has to be in on the drama.
Opinion. That said, if you think that you're going to waste your time on the Desantis campaign trying to run after Raheem Kassam and think that you're going to get anywhere winning the debate on trying to get Ron DeSantis to become the nominee, it's a waste of freaking time. It is like a non-issue. There are other more important things to discuss here. There is one of the major errors on the DeSantis campaign.
Oh, no shit.
So far,
Aaron keeping his eye on the ball. If none of the rest of us are, at least he is.
Tracing these rabbit trails that don't get to the substance of what we're talking about here, which should be uncharacteristic of Ron DeSantis based upon what he did while he was governor. The facts are we've got a country that's in the situation that it is, and he has to make a case for why he would do any better than Donald Trump in moving us forward. In my judgment, even with some criticisms of Donald Trump, in my judgment, Donald Trump's the guy that gets that done. You're wasting your freaking time. This is what's really problematic with American politics right now, is that a lot of people don't focus on the things that matter.
Jim is the voice of reason in the conversation.
Focus, because at the end of the day,
he's not wrong.
Win the nomination, and then you got to beat Joe Biden. So how are you going to be able to make that transition when it's there? when you get focused on all the wrong things now. The Trump campaign is focused on the right things right now, by and large. I have some criticisms, but they're not very
But has
large.
there ever really been a primary season? I mean, I haven't seen it in my lifetime. Has there ever been a primary season where these parties don't cutthroat each other and almost end up damaging themselves
Nope.
going into the general?
Not in this way. Listen, the standard thing, dogma in party politics for my lifetime, I was born in 1965. I've been working in campaign politics since the early 90s. And I observed it closely before that. So in campaign politics, you don't want a primary. That's why you have this strong tendency when you've got an incumbent president for people not to go against them. But so let me give an example. Pat Buchanan attempted to run against George W. Bush or contemplated that. He attempted to run against Bob Dole, which everyone thought he should be the nominee. You have all these insurgencies that come in, and there are negatives. We've never quite seen the kind of negatives in American politics, although they're always there, and you're going to have smash mouth politics. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we have this system, so that these challenges can be had. But I will say there's a little bit different tenor of it now. But my problem with it isn't the fact that people are beating heads with one another. The problem is that substantively we're losing focus on what really matters. That's my concern.
Well, I think the problem too is we focus so much on oppo, right? It's all oppositional research. It's all this other stuff. What can we dig up on the person? Blah 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 blah. What I care about as a citizen, a voter, and someone who fought for the nation is what is this person going to do? What are their actions state? What is their prior history of true actions in the government state, and how are they going to enact what they plan to do as executor of the law?
But that's why opposition is so important. Sorry, I just wanted to say you can't have it both ways, right? So I agree in that we should all be focused, right, on what they're going to do. But the reason why opposition is so important and so focal to such a focal point of these primaries is that that's the best way to determine what somebody is going to do. Ron DeSantis, for example, right? He likes to talk a big talk about he's gonna, do all these things if he becomes president someday. But just look at his record and what he supported as a member of Congress. A lot of people don't even know that he was a member of Congress because he was so uninfluential and so uninspiring. And pretty much President Trump had to drag him across the finish line when he ran for governor and got his ass kicked by Andrew Gillum. So I think opposition research is very important because Ron DeSantis has been groomed by the media and by the GOP establishment like some Manchurian candidate. And this is a guy who has pretended and literally lied to the American people and the voters of Florida and the Republican base and said that he is MAGA and America first. But if you look at his record as a member of Congress, for example, in 2013, Club for Growth was rallying behind Ron DeSantis, and him and his wife are on recording talking about how amazing Club for Growth is. Fast forward 3 years in 2016, and Club for Growth is committing, $7 million to defeating Donald Trump when he ran for president the first time. And then Ron DeSantis never openly endorsed Trump for president when he ran in 2016. So how are you going to say that this guy is MAGA and America first when really he only decided to pretend to be when Donald Trump was in the White House? He never supported
Monica
him.
Matthews is there.
He never supported him.
Excellent.
And that's why opposition research is so important, because your average person wouldn't know this if it wasn't for people like me and others and people like Raheem Kassam who are doing all this great opposition research and showing you who the real Ron DeSantis is, which is why I call him Con DeSantis, because he's a con man.
Let me bring people up because stuff going on. So Charles, I'm still trying to anyway. I'll bring people up. I'll bring people up if you want to.
I want Robert to speak here because I always like to hear what Robert has to say in these sort of circumstances. Mr. Robert Bowes, welcome to the stage, and what are your thoughts?
Hey, Chet. Thank you, Sphinx and Johnny. I just joined, so I'm not sure where the conversation is going, but Raheem is definitely, not coordinating. If you remember, he got invited to travel for a rally couple weeks back, but so did a Politico reporter. So is that Politico reporter coordinating? Just because, and we have tons of opposition press that travels on Trump Force One now, and they're not coordinating; they're hostile. So just because they, get to do an interview or travel on Trump Force
That is
One
a good
doesn't
one.
mean they're coordinating.
Trump should use that.
And by the way, Raheem is so objective. He will mix it up with Bannon and counter him. He's a unique thinker. He's not going to be towing the party line like the mainstream media. So, but, I see some interesting things going on. And maybe I'm sure you guys are political junkies. You guys know this too. But it seems like the mainstream media now, Fox in particular, are trying to pump up DeSantis. The Democrats are trying to pump up DeSantis. They want him. They want DeSantis to be the nominee because they know they can beat him. And there's such this weird alignment.
Everyone
right now.
really is trying to pump up Ron DeSantis, and it's really disturbing to me. It's who the establishment wants, which is why I will never, ever, ever vote
mainstream
for
media
him.
are kind of working together now, even to the
Why
point
does
of
the establishment
DeSantis
want Ron DeSantis
cheering
so
on
badly?
these hoax indictments now. It's really an odd
That's
mix.
what
But
everyone
the
should be
interesting
asking.
thing, if it's not Trump, the Republican Party is dead. I mean, I'm super dead.
Absolutely.
So it's
Unfortunately, Robert, the Republican Party is dead, and both parties are corrupt.
Exactly.
I was witness to in 2020 when Trump was running America First, his super PAC, and I was witness to so many times where they coordinated with John Solomon for articles, and then when DeSantis was running in 2018, I was with him when his PAC, and he himself personally coordinated with reporters about the Gilliam stuff. So I mean, to sit here and listen, you guys argue about one or the other. They both do it. They're both doing it. Unfortunately, DeSantis doesn't have a chance in hell, and Trump ain't going to win again.
Lev, you're
Biden,
saying
so
do what? Travel together with candidates?
No, not travel.
They're not coordinating.
No, not travel.
There's no coordination.
No, I'm talking about sitting in a BLT restaurant, sitting in a BLT restaurant with super PAC individuals and John Solomon, and discussing what articles to write, what to put in there, and what information to put.
Who was
that's
doing
coordination.
Who was doing that?
Well, why don't you go take a look? Who's doing Joseph Ahern?
No, who's the other side of the coordination that you're suggesting?
John Solomon and Joe Ahern.
Who's Joe Ahern?
He's one of the top executives for America First.
Who the hell is that? I don't even know him. Who's Joe Ahern?
Well, take a look.
America
Joe
First,
Ahern.
what?
Yeah.
He's not in Trump world.
Super PAC. Trump super PAC. Yeah, he's very big in Trump world.
Tommy and Roy, those are RNC people. Yeah.
But before they became RNC people, they ran the America First super PAC for Trump.
So, but you're right about the party having trouble, and both Democrats are so aligned. They coordinate. If you look at the talking points, it's just an echo chamber all the time, right? So
right, but the Republican Party needs to die, and I say this as somebody who's probably
I agree. Again, why the fuck do I agree with so much with Laura Loomer?
I think the Republican Party is already dead, and in 2024 we need to bury it. And so hopefully when President Trump wins re-election, and I do believe that he will, President Trump will encourage maybe the formation of another party, or he'll finally purge all of the rhinos out of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party establishment, just like the Democrat Party establishment, does not represent the desires and the wishes of the American people. And I think that most people in this country would probably register independent if they could, but unfortunately independents don't really win in this country.
Laura, what do you think?
Most voters actually do register as independent. Yeah. I mean, there's Gallup polling on this that shows that Democrats are only about 27, 29% on average, and Republicans are about 22 to 25%.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And the rest of the country is independent.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But unfortunately, even though that is the reality, thank you for confirming that, Chet, we have this really corrupt and broken two-party system that everybody's pissed off with. And look, it's not just Republicans who believe our elections were stolen. Let's be honest. Bernie Sanders had his election stolen. I do believe Bernie won the nomination in 2016, and they stole it from Bernie.
How
so
is
Republicans
Laura
and
Loomer
Democrats
the
all
voice
steal elections.
of reason?
And as
This
somebody
is
who ran for
awful.
office twice, I'll tell you right now, if they don't want
I
you,
do.
you're not getting in.
Hang
The
on.
Republican Party will work against you. It doesn't matter how long you've been registered
I
a
won't say I
Republican and
like
how
her, but
conservative
like
you
I
are and what your
agree with
background
her
is
on
or
more
how
than I'm
loyal you've been
comfortable
to
with.
this, GOP or Republican Party. They like having control over the people that they put in office. And the facts
Laura
are
Loomer is
they
the
like
voice of
people who are
reason, and that is a
easily
problem,
compromised.
okay?
Because
That
if
is
you're
a
compromised in
distinct
some way and you
problem.
have blackmail that they can use against you, then they can control you. They don't want independent thinkers in
This is the
office
state
who
of the
they can't
Republican Party
control.
that Laura
And
Loomer is the
that's
fucking
what I've
voice of
learned running for
reason.
office twice as an America First candidate in the state of Florida.
Yeah,
And
she's right.
I want a front row seat to the funeral of the Republican Party. I can't wait for us
And the
to
Democrats
finally...
are gonna hit RFK the same way they did Bernie. And so, Laura, what 2 or 3 things, if you were to say the RNC needs to salvage itself, what would victory be in salvaging it? What couple things would you like it to get to?
Well, first of all, we need to get rid of Ronna Romney. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
I just cannot believe we have such incompetence in our leadership. If the Republican Party knew it was good for it, we would have Ronna Romney would be gone. Kevin McCarthy would be gone.
Yes,
Kevin McCarthy belongs
agree.
in prison. Mitch
I wouldn't
McConnell
say
would be
that.
gone.
Yes.
Okay, all these people would be gone. I don't understand
The
how...
McLeadership. The
Yeah,
McLeadership.
the McLeadership. It's interesting, right? They all like Mick, the McPoliticians, as I like to call them. So that's the first step. Also,
No.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to
Why
say
are
something.
you muting her?
To the people who are disabling my account right now, you're the same people who are botting this space.
No one is disabling
God
your account,
help
crazy
you,
woman. No
okay?
one is disabling
God
your
help
account.
you,
Jesus fucking
because
Christ.
I have not been involved in this drama, okay? And you should have picked a different target, okay? Because
literally no one is
you didn't do
disabling
your
her
research
account.
on me, bro.
It's
Okay?
up and running. She
God
was
help
lying.
you. Just
This is
get
like
on your knees right now
this is
and just
crazy
pray
conservative
and don't
bullshit
get
what's
off those
going on right
knees.
now.
Just keep
She's like,
praying.
I'm gonna get
Keep
clout
mother
from being
fucking
canceled,
praying.
even though I'm not
Okay?
canceled. Her account
Thank
is
you.
up and running
Go
right now.
ahead,
I just
Laura.
pulled it up. Yeah, shut up,
Oh,
Sphinx.
thanks.
Let
Check
Loomer
your
talk.
text messages.
We're not here for you. We don't even know who you are.
All
Let
right,
Loomer
let's go
talk.
to John.
sorry,
I know he was
hold
raising
on.
his
He
hand
wanted
for
me to
and then okay, go
he
ahead,
wanted
Laura.
me to say 3 things. So I said the first one. So because I think that we would
That was
all
the space host.
find that we actually
Sphinx.
agree on so much more, and that most Americans really aren't as polarized as people think, and we don't really hate each other, as the media likes to say. If we all had this conversation, because most registered Republicans hate the Republican Party, and I think most registered Democrats hate the Democrat Party.
Autumn, I'm
And
starting to think
the
you have a
reasons
crush on
why are
me, and that's
probably
going
the
to be
same
really
grievances
misguided
that
for
we
you.
have with our
I don't
parties.
fuck
And
socialists, Autumn.
number 1, get rid of McLeadership. Number 2, there needs to be an audit of the RNC. Okay, this is a big Ponzi scheme, and they are committing so
Correct.
much fraud.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Laura.
with their fundraising scams. Oh, we're going to
Yes,
use this
it
money to fight for free speech. We're going to fight against election fraud. We're gonna fight against big tech shutting President Trump down. And when you go look at the expenditure reports from the RNC, they didn't spend any of the money on any of the things that they said they were going to do. They didn't do anything to combat voter fraud. They haven't filed a
Nick
single
Fuentes
lawsuit
has
against
had
big
the
tech.
cow
I
band.
have.
Well, he's been
Right?
in a
I
Twitter
spent
space
probably
before,
over
and
$1
it's still
million
working the Twitter
on
space.
lawsuits fighting big
So
tech
I'm not
and
sure
their
that
election
actually means
interference.
anything.
And the
But
RNC that had over $1 billion in funds that they raised from 2020, and then the aftermath of the election in 2020, they haven't spent a penny on a single lawsuit combating big tech. Not to mention,
True.
I don't know why President Trump doesn't sue the RNC and the NRCC
Oh,
and
that
the
would be
NRSC
so
because they
beautiful.
violated his cease and desist
Oh,
letter. How
it
many
would
of
be
you
so
knew that
beautiful
President
if Trump
sent a
sued them.
cease and desist letter to these organizations telling them to stop fundraising off his name?
Yes.
And they never listened. They kept on fundraising and committing fraud while using President Trump's name. I mean, when are people going to be held accountable for this? And then third, I think that it should be prohibited for the RNC to use funds to influence primaries. And I'm so sick of these bullshit artists saying that they don't use funds
Another great
to
point for
interfere in
Loomer.
primary
Jesus
elections
Christ.
because they're liars, and they absolutely
We're living in
do.
the upside
And they
down
have
right now.
alienated a lot of really great people,
I'm going to make a
grassroots
t-shirt that says
activists,
Laura
and they
Loomer for
have turned
president.
people off from voting altogether because they lie and they say they don't influence primaries when they absolutely do. They did it to me. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. So those are three things that I think immediately need to be done. And look, I love President Trump. I support him, but sometimes he endorses some of the shittiest people. Like,
Yes,
I don't
he
know why
does.
he hasn't chopped the head off the snake. And when I say that, I'm talking about, you know, politically speaking, of course, I'm not inciting violence, but I'm saying he needs to ruin Ronna Romney. He needs to ruin Kevin
it would
McCarthy.
be so
He
beautiful.
needs to ruin Mitch McConnell and probably 99% of the other elected Republicans in the party, because I think they're all trash.
Okay, now let's go to, thank you, Laura. Let's go to John. I know you were waving your hand there trying to speak, so let's go.
She hasn't said
Thanks
anything wrong.
much.
That's why it's the
I'm kind
upside
of new
down,
here,
Tom
but
J.
Laura,
We're
with
in
that
the
last
upside
stuff
down.
you
Laura
said,
Loomer
I
should
just
not be
want
the
to
voice of
say
reason.
I agree. So as far as Romney and or Ronna Romney, McDowell, McDaniel, whatever. Yeah, same with McCarthy, all the mix. Okay, get rid of the three mix. The three mix got to go. Now let me make my points. So there are people who are for a candidate or another. They're working on campaigns and so forth. But for all the other listeners, make the candidates earn it. Don't choose right now. Make them earn it.
I'm voting for Vivek. I'm not voting for any of this bullshit.
Right up to the wire, right up until when you vote.
I'm voting for
because
Vivek,
right
bro.
now, neither candidate of the two big ones on the Republican side is making any promises. The only guy making promises is RFK Jr. I don't want to get into that right now, but
Vivek
he
is making promises.
Now, DeSantis,
Vivek's making
in
a
Florida,
lot
he's
of
very
promises.
comfortable. Gets on stage, he's the man, and you can see the confidence. You can see how well he speaks. He knows all the issues, and he's ready to go. He's hitting it hard, and he comes at the camera hard. And then you get on the national stage, he sets 1 foot outside of Florida, and he's playing it safe. And it ain't good. Whoever's running that campaign, it's not good. If you're playing
Really
it safe
not
because
good.
you want to wait to see what happens with the Trump trial and all that stuff, it's just making DeSantis look weak, and it's making him look compromised. So they got to fix that campaign. Trump has not come out to say that he's made any mistakes, and I know
I'm going to
that's
make a
his personality,
DeSantis
and he probably
compromise
never will.
shirt.
But there are many people out there, and to get on the to hit the issue of Republican versus Democrat, it has been for at least 2 decades that the greatest voting bloc in this country is the independents. And when I say independents, I don't mean the independent party, of which in some states there is a party called the Independent Party. I mean the unaffiliated, the unenrolled, the non-party people like me for 35 years, because both parties are corrupt, and I recognized it in my 20s. That's the biggest party. People are waiting. And you know what? It's getting bigger. If you look at the stats, it's getting bigger. Now, these are people who will vote either party. We'll see what happens. Now, it makes more of a difference in open primary states. Each state is different. Some have closed primaries where you have to be in the party to vote in that primary. I'm in Massachusetts, which really doesn't mean anything because I'm behind the blue wall, and no Republican's ever going to win here unless they pretend to be a Democrat like Charlie Baker, who was a total scam artist. Next, most important, everybody's being played. Okay, Biden's not running. I mean, come on. Why do we even talk about him? Everybody's getting played here. He ain't running. Why did Susan Rice quit a few months ago? What is she getting ready for that's going to happen in the fall?
Michelle Obama.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I don't think Michelle Obama. I think Susan Rice.
I didn't know Susan Rice quit.
Michelle Obama.
That's interesting. All right.
Win. Susan Rice, I believe.
No, I don't want to speak in the space.
A chance to win. His choice would have been,
I am an observer
Kamala. That's
of the
why
shit
she's vice
show,
president,
not
but
a player in the shit
knows
show.
that she can't win. I think they're going to slide in Susan Rice, but most important,
that would actually not be the worst decision they've ever made. If they slid in Susan Rice,
no effing way. Okay, they killed. All right, they murdered hundreds of thousands of Americans with those clot shots, those stroke pokes, and I can prove it. If you don't know who I am.
The vaccine was not a clot shot or a stroke poke. I don't endorse this. I'm just streaming it. YouTube, don't give me a strike, okay?
You don't even follow
no
me,
strike.
Bro. You're another
the vaccine
show.
was perfect in every possible way.
Okay, sorry about that.
Hey, it took John like a couple months to follow me, even though he was like my #1 guest on my Spaces.
It's okay, John. I like to make sure people are alive. Go ahead. You got a pulse.
All right. So, this is not an issue that's going to go away. They're going to continue to try to use mRNA for the RSV vaccines, all the other vaccines, and it's not even about vaccines; it's about control. Okay, you know about the whole global initiatives, the One Health initiative under the WHO. It's in everything. Go to a town meeting and you will find the One Health Initiative. Go to a state level meeting. You'll find it. It's in there. It's all from the global elites. They're not elite at all. They're freaking retards. But so anyway, that's how I feel.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me
What should
talk.
I say if they
But
make me a
don't take your
speaker?
eye off
I
the
haven't
ball.
requested or
Make
anything.
them
I'm
earn
not
your vote,
promising
number
anything. But
one,
what do you guys
and
want me to
don't think
say?
COVID's over. If it's climate change next, whatever it is, we got to use COVID to show them and to show all these people that are independents. You win the independence, you win everything. Now you got to win the independence by saying, hey, by the way, your mother, your sister, your brother, your daughter, you know, the clots that they had, the pulmonary embolism, you know, the stroke in the 12-year-old girl down the street. They did that. They
Kurt
did that
is
to
the
you.
voice of reason. He's like, don't do it.
It's not COVID. Don't be fooled. They did that to you. So don't let them get away with it. And we're going to use that to win over the hearts and minds of the people who are on the fence. They have to lose faith and trust in government for
No,
anything to
Autumn,
happen.
that's a socialist
For
trick. And
anything
don't
to
think I don't
happen,
know you do
people
that in my
in
chat.
the middle have to lose faith and trust in government. Thanks for your time.
John, who when you say they did that to you, who is they? Who are you referring to?
There's a whole. It's a good question. I mean, there's a whole lot of they. The oligarchs, really. You look at who's running the med boards. You look at Gates, who dropped off $12 million in 2018 at the Massachusetts Medical Society, which has been around since the late 1700s.
Actually. That's not
They
a bad
own the
idea
New
at all.
England Journal of Medicine. He was able to buy any paper or article that's favorable for the vaccine and suppress anyone that shows it unfavorably. So the journals were corrupted. The CARES Act itself was written in 2018. Why was it written in 2018? All they did was change a few variables in 2020. And by doing so, it's a behavior modification. They were able to get the hospital administrators to go to a certain protocol. And if you look at Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman, and you realize the smartest thing they ever said was, if you subsidize something, you get more of it. If you subsidize people being on ventilators, you get more people on ventilators. If you subsidize a COVID diagnosis being put on a death certificate, you get more of it. If you subsidize remdesivir, you get more of it. And over 100,000 people in the United States died from acute renal failure and remdesivir. Who knows that? Anybody who listens to me knows it. I got the data. I have 1 million unredacted death certificates from Vermont, Minnesota, and Massachusetts. I can tell you what people died from in every pattern. You will find it nowhere else in the world except for the 2 other guys that I'm working with that got the data from the other states. I'm in Massachusetts. So,
do you mind pinning that to the top of the space, John? I think other people would love to look at that. And then let's go to Miley.
Yeah, Miley, and then Danny, and then Monica, if you still wanted to speak. Go ahead, Miley.
Thank you so much, Sphinx and Chet, for having me. I respect both of you. I don't know Gianni as well, but I'll be really quick. But I pinned a tweet to the top. One of the questions I had, well, first of all, I want to say that I'm listening to all presidential candidates. I'm listening to all their podcasts across the board. I'm reading articles. I'm listening to their Twitter Space interviews. I haven't locked in anybody yet. But something that I noticed when DeSantis had his space with Elon, and this is not anti-DeSantis for the DeSantis supporters, but I wanted to know, was he going to be advertising on Twitter? What kind of package did he buy? Did he get a discount because Elon supports him? Did he get the interview because of the advertising package that he purchased? I had so many questions. And then lo and behold, a couple weeks later, here we go. I have a promoted ad from DeSantis in my Twitter feed. So I'm really curious to see how political ads show up here on Twitter this year. And I wish I could turn them off.
Don't worry, Melee. I get spammed with the DeSantis ads too, but I can assure you that they're not performing well. I mean, it's really funny actually. I posted something proving this the other day. There was a DeSantis clip that had like 40,000 views, a promoted ad, okay, and it had 24 likes, okay, and within 5 minutes, yes, you can go and look at my tweet and you can see this too. He's getting that just shows you they're using bot farms, and I actually have screenshots that have that prove that bot farms are being utilized to support.
I also think that James O'Keefe is using a bot farm, by the way. I really do. I'm not just saying that.
And I will send this to your DM, or you said your DM was broken, Sphinx, so maybe I'll DM it to you.
I was looking at all the quote tweets from
OMG
Media, and I'm pretty sure it's a bot farm.
They're using bot farms, and
my DMs are broken too. I thought it was just me.
They're using bot farms. And how is a major presidential candidate, right? If this guy really is the next best thing since sliced bread and he's going to beat Donald Trump, how does the guy only get 22 likes on a promoted Twitter post? I mean, I could literally take a video of my dog pissing on a tree and it would probably get more likes than that in a shorter amount of time.
Not wrong
right?
about that.
So something
Well, Laura, I will say quickly in response to you, whether, and this is more to the listener, whether people love you or don't love you, Laura, one of your tweets I really liked was questioning somebody, who was getting paid by a DeSantis, super PAC. And we have a right to ask who's paying who's getting paid what, and where that money's coming from. And we have a right to ask people to disclose when they're paid by political candidates, countries, and super PACs. And a lot of people aren't doing that.
I just want to say something as well.
Thank you.
I want to say something as well to this, which is that just to be very clear here, starting from a couple days ago, I usually send invites to people, and for this space, I want it to be fair, especially because that's Trump versus DeSantis, and so I did reach out and sent several invites to DeSantis people on the DeSantis camp because I know, and I knew there will be stealth MSM representatives in the audience, and I know you're here. Thank you very much for coming, but because of this story. So I didn't, and I told them in the DMs, I said, Trump supporters will be there. It would be in your best interest to make sure that your voice is heard as well. So, I have not seen many, I have not heard many here, and I'm not going to make a commentary on that. I just wanted to say I equally extended out to both camps because by the way, that is going to make the
Brian
space.
was so busy, Sphinx. He just didn't have time for you. The Trump supporters, they love your space, and we all make time for you. But little Brian,
listen, Laura, you don't appreciate the fact that he makes kombucha. I'm not going to go there with you.
Why'd it stop? What's going on? What the hell? Oh, it turned black. Sorry, that's my computer setting it to night, whatever.
a lot of weird stuff going on.
My fault.
Are you talking?
Yeah.
Come back, space.
What's up, Danny? Let's
Hey,
go. What up?
What's up? Hey, thanks for having me up. I saw Chet was up here, so that's the reason I want to get up here. So I
Oh
wanted
my
to tell
God,
him.
he's a nut job.
We love
Yeah,
Chet.
I'm the nut job. Yeah. No, look, I saw Chet up here. And I just wanted to tell him, hey, man, what's up? I got your back. Anything you need, holler at me. I've known Chet a long time. A couple, 3 years, I think, which is a long time in social media for sure. But
Thank
thanks
you
for having me
so
up.
much, but we are only talking about this topic today.
No, I know. That's all I'm going to say. I can't hear a word Laura's saying. My audio's wrecked.
We'll
And
drop
for
you
anybody,
down and bring it back up.
I'm going to go down so I can listen to Laura talk. But for anybody who's wondering about my PFP, that's my actual photo. So thanks for letting me talk.
I don't think anyone was wondering, sir.
I'm never going to follow Sphinx ever. No.
All right, Danny, we'll drop it down and bring it back up. It's good to see you. Hello, Brock. Welcome to the stage. It's good to see you. Before we go to you, let's go to Storm, who's has his hand up here for.
Bring the rain, Storm. Bring it.
Oh, thanks, Chet. Thanks, Sphinx. It's great because I love intelligent conversation. And what Miley was saying and Laura's saying, I mean, it's hitting right on point. And, I guess here's my question. I hate to be this hopeless pessimist, right? As I'm looking at this, somebody mentioned this earlier, I think it was about 15 minutes ago, where it's like, look, if your candidate isn't the right guy or girl, they're not getting in. And I have to wonder how Trump got into the RNC and actually made it work in 2016. And so if we fast forward, if we look at 2020, I think we all know what happened there. Here's where I've lost faith as an American voter. As we both know, both sides steal elections and they manipulate and they can find a way to get these taken care of. So if we're supposed to be looking at serious candidates, we're looking at DeSantis. He's got some strong points, but he also has some weaknesses. We also know Trump can do the job because he's been there and done that. So how do we continue to feel like we have faith in our system if we know there's fingers pointing and we know there's stuff going on that we can't control? And, I'd love to hear, maybe Laura, I know that you've run, and I know it's really disheartening when we have a voice and we want to make it heard, However, it just seems that that one vote isn't really going to matter if you're in a really red state or if you're in a really blue state. Like the gentleman spoke earlier, he's like, there's no way in hell it's ever going red. And I'm in Texas, and I don't think anywhere in hell it's ever going to go blue. But now we're turning a little
Texas
purple in
is
some of these metro
absolutely
areas.
going
So
to go blue
how
at
is
some
it that we
point.
can keep
Texas
faith
is
in the American system if they're
100%
not
going
going
to
to
go
continue
blue.
for election integrity, and they're not going to continue to make
It is
sure
stupid to
that
think
that is
otherwise. I'm
instilled in this next
sorry.
election, especially
Yeah.
right now with
You
what we saw
can't.
with the midterm?
You can't. And that's just it. That's the realistic answer. And Republicans have to stop trying to get their voter base high on hopium. It's called hopium. Like,
I
you
agree.
have copium and then you have hopium. It's the favored drug of the Republican Party. Let's get everyone high on hopium. You can't have faith. The Republican Party's dead, and you can't trust or have faith in our election system if you're not going to have election integrity. And look, even if they don't believe the election was stolen, they better start pretending like they do believe it was stolen, because majority of their base does. And their job isn't to tell us what they think. Their job is to do what the base wants. So, the fact of the matter is over 70% of Americans do believe that the election was fraudulent in 2020. And that transcends party affiliation. That's not just Republicans. And that's why I just don't have hope in the system, right? People always say, are you going to run again? Are you going to run again? Yeah, I'd like to. I'd love to be in office. I would love to go in and basically be a bulldozer inside the Republican Party and help these people actually reform themselves from the inside. But I just don't have faith in the system anymore. I don't even believe in the integrity of our elections. And how do if I don't, as a candidate, somebody who ran 2 times, and it's not like I didn't do well, right? I did very well, given the fact that I also had no social media. How do I expect voters? Why would people want to show up? I know people. I ran for Congress in the Villages, okay, which is the oldest district in the nation per capita. It's a retirement community. I live in a retirement community. And I know people who are 97 years old who told me that they're never voting again, that they've never missed an election in their life, but they are never voting again because they don't have faith in our elections anymore. What does that tell you? So I just I don't have faith in the system anymore. I have faith in Donald Trump. And I think that if Donald Trump doesn't get back into office, that's it. We're done. And I'm not going to be voting anymore, because there's nobody in the Republican Party that inspires me, aside from maybe somebody like Carrie Lake, but nobody else inspires me. I like RFK. I don't agree with all of his policy positions, but I like disruptors. I don't have to agree with somebody 100%. I like disruptors. And personally, I'm never voting again. If Donald Trump isn't the nominee, I'm just going to burn my registration card, and that's it. It's done.
Well, let me ask you this follow-up then. You mentioned the Republican Party is dead, which I actually mostly agree with. Let's say there's this new party that's on the rise, and it really has to go through the elitist to be approved, to be somehow incorporated into our voting system and into the way that we see politics. Now, I think that they have such a tight control, especially with those folks who want to keep it a 2-party system, and they'll do everything in their power, and they will spend unlimited amounts of money to keep it that way. So how do we get to those people to say, hey, maybe if we loosen this system up, and maybe if we go progressively in a different direction while holding on to conservative values for that base that the Republicans have, do you see those folks being able to move the Republican Party base with the new ideology and letting the elitists let that run that way? Or do you just continue to see it be a traditional Republican Democrat?
The only way anything is going to allow for Republicans to lose. And I know that sounds, catastrophic. I'm talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about elitist politicians and career politicians. We have to be willing to.
Or your connection is breaking up a little bit right now, so let's try.
Don't hold us in suspense,
Yeah,
Laura. What do you need to be willing to do?
Right now,
how about now?
Lose?
Yeah.
That'd be
What
pretty
about?
great.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, Republicans really do need to lose.
Sorry,
a
there's
lot.
like crazy fireworks going on around my neighborhood right
That's
now.
okay.
So it's
But we didn't hear
disrupting
part
everything.
of it. So if you want
What I was saying is that we have to be willing to allow for Republicans to lose. Okay?
Yes.
And that may sound scary, but the only way
Laura
you're going
Loomer
to
is
break
right
this
again.
toxic cycle of career politicians is if You do not support a Republican on the ballot simply because they are a Republican.
Stop
That's
voting
why
for
we have people
horrible
like Lindsey
candidates.
Graham and Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and all these idiots in office who have been in office for years on end. That's why we don't have term limits in this country, because people think, well, you know, I just am going to support the Republican on the ballot, and oh, we gotta support Republicans because of Reagan's rule. Personally, I think that the Ronald Reagan rule is probably one of the most destructive things that has ever happened to this country.
There's so much information that American voters have to sift through too that is just almost deliberately noise, that it makes it impossible for the average American who has to maybe work 1 or 2 jobs and take care of their families to actually know what the hell's even going on in the political spectrum. And there's not a source out there deliberately providing unbiased news.
But I will just say, I would be
Mandatory
willing
Carrie, I
to
appreciate
compromise
it.
and allow for the Democrats to take control of the House if it meant that we got rid of Kevin McCarthy. Honestly, I would be willing to have Democrats take over control of the House if it meant getting rid of some of these entrenched career politicians that are essentially Democrats anyway. They're poison in our party. And I don't think that a lot of Republicans have adopted that mindset of, well, maybe you have to let certain people lose if it's for the greater good.
I said that for 2 years,
That's
and I
how
was
I
called a
feel.
leftist.
I'm not talking about the presidency, but I am saying
I literally
that
wrote it
it's
in
not
my
like
book.
we
I
have
was
a
like,
big
stop
majority
voting for
in
horrible
Congress
people.
right now. And what are the Republicans really doing right now that would be different from what the Democrats are doing? They've lied about all of their policy initiatives going forward. They clearly pushed McCarthy in, and they're not holding true to the concessions they promised all of us. So what difference would it really make right now if the Democrat had control of the House?
Here's the difference. I'm going to tell you, Laura, because this is a strategy. This is a strategy that you bring up. It's important because it's an effective strategy, actually. It's a good point that you brought up that I want to mention. It's
Sorry,
often,
I can't hear.
Oh, she can't hear. Oh, well. Can you hear?
Let
Let
me
me.
can hear you, Sphinx.
I can't. Let me try.
Okay, all right, Laura, go ahead and drop down
back.
and we'll get you back up. We're getting glitches
Yeah,
right now because someone's in the space.
Let's try to bring her back up. Let's try to bring her back up. Oh, she's going to leave and come back.
Can I make a super quick point while you do that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to say to Laura, I appreciated what she said about hopium. And I think that hopium is probably the strongest drug on the planet. I think hopium is stronger than any drug or alcohol or anything that there is. Hopium is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and what I thank you, Miley. What I was going to say, Laura, is that and I think you couldn't hear me, but you brought up a really interesting point, which is a good strategic point as well. Sometimes people will opt to have their quote unquote enemies in place rather than their quote unquote allies, because with your quote unquote enemies, you know what they are.
Exactly.
Right? You know where they stand. You know what positions they have. You know what they're for and what they're against. They're against you. They're against your position. But it's interesting that you said that, because that comes in when we think about strategy. Is like, do we want these people who are supposedly on our side, who are giving us false confidence here, like that we have these votes, right? Or do we really? But are they working? Who are they dealing with, right? So I think the point that you brought up was really important. I just wanted to say that.
Hey, Sphinx, if I could just say the one thing to follow up, and I'll shut up after this, I promise. I love the strategy. What really makes me nervous about that, though, and maybe I'm thinking this too simplistically, because you almost have to do something really outlandish, because we know that the system is losing. Right? As a Republican, they're not gaining traction. So if you do blow up the party, here's what I see. Let's say the Democrats take control of all 3 branches of government. What can they do in a 4 or a 2-year term to be able to ensure that they can run the House, run the Senate, and run the presidency for an infinite amount of time by legislating the things in their favor? If you give somebody home court advantage for an extended period of time, you have to have a new party that somehow draws masses to you, because it's pretty much split 50-50. And then you look at that, maybe 8 to 10% of the independents who could swing or sway either way. So really, we're looking at razor thin elections, depending, on how your candidate
this guy wants
or your
to lose.
party
Don't listen
is
to this guy.
projecting, or at least hoping. And I love what Miley said, and Laura, you're right on point with the hopium. That's what politics is. They're going to promise you the world and then probably not deliver, and they're going to re-promise when it comes to the election cycle.
Right, but it's becoming
I'm just nervous that the Democratic
so
Party
dangerous.
takes it over and there's no way to get
the
it back.
reason why this is so dangerous is because the Republicans with their hopium, we already had razor thin elections, okay? And now it gives the Democrats an even bigger advantage because they have pissed I'm saying they as in the Republicans, have pissed so many people off that Republican voters, like super voters, high propensity Republican voters are staying home now because they have lost faith in our system. And so this is why I honestly would not care if a bunch of Republicans lost their elections. Like, I'm talking about career politicians, people who have been in office for 10, 15, 20 years, who are establishment cancers, okay, on the party. I would not care if they lost and Democrats took their seat because it's much easier to replace a single term Democrat as it is to replace a 20-year incumbent. You know what I'm saying? Because as soon as you win your election, you already have to start campaigning anyway because they're 2-year terms. So I just think that if you already had an America First candidate in mind, you could essentially just not show up and vote for the Republican, have the Democrat get in, and then immediately start an aggressive ground game campaign for the America First candidate to replace the Democrat who's only been in for one term. Especially if you're talking about districts that are like R+2, R+3, R+4, or D+1, right? I'm talking about districts that are not super Democrat or they're only slightly leaning Republican. I think that this would be a good strategy. And it's about time that Republicans start to decide, are you just going to keep complaining about the same rhino pieces of shit that get elected every single year because you show up and you say, I guess I'm going to vote for the Republican instead of the Democrat. And then what? You're unhappy. It's not like these people change. Why are you voting? I didn't even vote for a lot of the people that were on my ballot this time around in 2022. I didn't because I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to vote for people that are liars.
So
I don't care if they're Republican.
Let me just give an example of who does this the best. Okay, this was actually my red pill moment, and I will say this: nobody really knows my politics. Okay, some of you probably think you do, maybe you do, but no one does this very thing better than the Democrats. And I'm not saying this in a bad way necessarily. It is smart as hell. But let me tell you one thing that happened with me with those January 6th. Anybody who knows me, has spoken to me, knows those January 6th Hollywood style shows on CNN. Okay. What we heard over and over was, and I don't care what your politics is, we heard over and over, don't put party before country. Okay, don't put party before country. Those same people in the midterms went and supported at the expense of people, at the expense of candidates who had put, according to them, country before party. They went and supported opponents. The Democrats went and supported their opponents they were election deniers
in the primary.
Primary, sorry.
Yeah, like
exactly.
John Gibbs in Michigan and Joe Kenton.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So when I saw that, I thought, this party before country before country party, I don't ever want to hear that again, like from any of these people, because you literally just went and made it impossible for the few people who, according to you, did put party before country before party. You made it impossible for them to get elected. You funded the opponent's campaign. So this is a strategic kind of thing. I'm not necessarily saying that it's good to get Democrats elected. I have not done the research on this, but I'm just saying this is how the Democrats think. They will throw anyone under the bus to sort of get to the greater goal is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and look, I'm not a Democrat. I've never been a Democrat in my life, but at the same time, I am at a point where I would rather see a Democrat with no name ID or low name ID who isn't as entrenched in their career as some of these career politicians take the seat of an entrenched career politician, Rhino, and then, find somebody who does have name ID. We need to start recruiting people. We also need to start eliminating the term carpetbagger from our vocabulary. Who gives a shit if someone's a carpetbagger? That's what the Democrats do. They recruit activists, okay? And people that have a lot of personality who are likable. That's how we ended up. When
I'm
I
not
say
laughing
likable,
about
I'm
that.
talking
Okay,
about
pause. Hang on. So what I was laughing about is, how yesterday on Happy Hour, I said that everyone should send Carrie Smith and her pastor the Christian swinger site. Some people have picked up on the fact. Some people who hate watch every single thing that I do picked up on the fact that at 2 hours and 18 minutes, I told everyone to send Carrie Smith and her pastor the link to the Christian swinger site. That's what I was laughing about. Okay, resume.
Are going to fight for the America First agenda. I honestly do not care, because they're not really addressing local issues when they're a representative in Congress. They're going and voting on national issues, and as long as
Look,
they're available
they're
to
literally
speak with their
complaining that I
constituents
said
and get the viewpoints and get the opinions from their constituents regarding the national issues that they're voting on, who cares if the person is from your area, as long as they're voting according to what you want? Like, why does it matter so much?
Yeah, let's go to Chris. Chris, thanks for waiting.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, now we'll see if I can get through this without getting interrupted. I'll start off by saying that
I'm going to give you some advice. Don't address Laura directly in the you. Just refer in the third person. Speak to the group, please.
all right. I was going to say that, I want to start off by saying I voted for Trump twice. I know the election was stolen from him. And, I really, when he got into office, I really hoped things were going to be different. His first big disappointment for me was leading a standing ovation for Hillary Clinton at the inauguration luncheon. Okay. And then over the next year, I didn't see him draining the swamp. I didn't see him firing people. I really expected to see a bunch of you're fired, career bureaucrats going out the door. I mean, and even all the way back in January of 2017, I would have expected a career bureaucrat who loved Hillary Clinton like Tony Fauci to go out the door way back then. That didn't happen. None of that happened. Trump still had a lot of good policies, foreign policy especially. The tax cuts were great. But then we roll around to 2020 and Corona. And before anybody accused me of Monday morning quarterbacking, I started criticizing the Corona response in the middle of March 2020. I was in disbelief at Trump announcing lockdowns. So I go look at the Constitution. It's like, is there anything in there that says, the First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly don't apply if people get sick? And there's nothing in there. So I'm like, what in the world? Why is Trump doing this? And then, of course, predictably, left-wing tyrants took his lead and they took it and ran with it, made it even worse. Well, and then Trump talks about hydroxychloroquine. He talks about some other things, but those never get into treatment. And then you hear about doctors out there effectively treating Corona patients, saving almost every single person they treat, even elderly ones. And yet none of that gets in place. You get remdesivir, you get ventilators, you get all this other stuff, and you can see the death toll is being inflated, and literally people are being allowed to die in hospitals. Okay. And, and then finally, of course, Trump has little Fauci in charge, the deepest of the deep state, the swampiest of the swamp. He's up at the front of that Corona response the entire time. Okay. And I was like, why? Why would you have that man up there? That's ridiculous. And then he gives him an award on his last day in office, him and Birx and some of the others. So I'm like, good grief. And the problem for me is, compounded on top of all that, Trump still brags about these quote unquote vaccines that are killing people. And they haven't saved anybody. If you get out there and get really into the data, even if they save.
What happened? Why is he muted? Where'd the sound go?
Somebody for a few months. It probably didn't save any. Okay. And it's been 3-4 months now, I've been hearing from the loyalists making all the
Why is the audio gone? Spaces is so fucking glitchy. Can Elon Musk please invest to
these excuses. Okay. I'm sorry, but in 2020,
come on.
The buck stopped with Trump. All of.
Can someone please let someone else talk?
Curious.
Okay, here
what
we go.
would it
there he
take
goes.
For you to hear from President Trump to feel, as if that's been remedied on his part?
Well, here's the other thing. You're talking about decision making. Observe managers and their decision making. And the one thing you find out, if a manager doesn't figure it out, if he's a consistent pattern of making bad decisions, he's not suddenly going to become a good manager, leader, decision maker. It just doesn't happen. And, just like Lindsey Graham amnesty at the rally, was that today or yesterday? I can't explain that one. And even, I can't understand even on the speakership why he didn't just keep quiet but he goes out there and endorses McCarthy. So
I understand, but anyone in this space,
but it's not just so for me, it's not just the death jabs.
Okay, because that seems to be like your consistent contention where President Trump is concerned. So I wanted you to answer that specifically, because if we were going to get into a character analysis, I think several people in this space have done a fantastic job of proving where Ron DeSantis actually lacks in integrity. And this is just all I'm going to say about this. And I would suggest to you this: consider someone who ran on a gubernatorial ticket, knowing the entire time that he was actually going to run for presidency while taking dollars in. Not suggesting it's illegal. I'm suggesting it is unethical. And that speaks to someone's character very largely. And you know that. So if I'm going to continue to hear you in spaces upset and contentious with President Trump about the vaccine, I would love to hear you address specifically the vaccine, not Lindsey Graham, not other choices, but the vaccine, because that's what you hang your hat on. With all due respect.
Monica, I just want
that's not
Monica,
it. It's not just that. It's multiple other things. That's a huge one, but it's not just that. And I'm not going to tell you that Ron DeSantis is perfect by any means. Okay. But as far as, running for governor and then, suddenly running for president, I don't have a big problem with that. We need to get the Democrats out of office. I want the best guy in there. And here's the other thing. Trump's not flying in with his cape and solving everything all by himself. And Trump makes it a point to tick off all kinds of Republicans that might otherwise be with him. So, we need somebody. Well, I don't want a rhino. I want somebody who's not pissed everybody off such that he might be able to get help.
Hey, Chris, I just wanted to say, if the vaccine is an issue for you, and I'm not trying to delegitimize anything you're saying, because I don't like the vaccines either. I support President Trump, but I'm not vaccinated, and I hate the vaccines, and I wish President Trump would.
The vaccines are perfect in every possible way. Don't give me a strike,
YouTube. He used to. I think he finally, got the hint once people started booing whenever he would talk about the vaccines at his rallies. But look, I agree with you in that the vaccine is an issue. I don't think we're ever going to change Donald Trump's mind on that. However, I would rather have a candidate like Donald Trump who is consistent in his messaging about the vaccine than somebody like Ron DeSantis, who also pushed the vaccine and is now trying to push revisionist history and pretends like he never pushed the vaccine. Because at least Donald Trump, it's a character issue, as Monica said, right? At least we know
I'm
where Donald
sure
Trump
it's
stands.
just a coincidence that they're
People may
all
not agree
ignoring
with his
Vivek.
personality. I personally
I'm
love
sure
it.
it's just
There's
an
people
accident.
that say, oh, I wish he wouldn't talk the way he talks. I personally love it, right? I don't love the vaccines, but I would rather know where somebody stands, right? Just like I would rather have a Democrat who I knew was an open enemy than a rhino that was pretending to be my friend that was just going to shank me from behind in the jugular when I'm not looking, right? I would rather have somebody like Donald Trump, who I agree with most of the time, even though I don't like his stance on the vaccine, than somebody like Ron DeSantis, who, and take it from me as a Floridian, pushed the vaccine. We have the videos of him advocating for the vaccine, saying that it's 99% effective, literally lying to voters and saying that.
Then he learned. He learned and he changed course. He learned.
But did
he?
Yes, he did change course.
Did
He
he
learned.
really? Did he?
He made mistakes. Then he
He did
learned.
not learn. He's a liar. Last week, Ron DeSantis. I'll show you. Last week, Ron DeSantis.
And I will say this: you taking over the space. I mean, and getting to.
No one's taking over the space. Number one. Okay. Number one. No one's taking over the space. If you don't like the space, the leave button's on the top right.
Exactly.
I don't care if there are 3 people in the space, and I'll end it whenever I want. The fact is, I asked Laura to come, and I'm giving a little more leeway, okay? And a lot of people are asking her questions, okay? I would encourage other people I respect here to speak more, like Monica, like Lev, like anyone else, okay? I love hearing from Monica. I love hearing from others. But you know what? If people are asking Laura questions, she's going to answer, and I'm going to let her answer. So leave button, top right. Also, if you write nasty comments about anyone on stage, I'm going to block you so you're out. Thank you very much, and be well. God bless you. I don't know who was talking, but go ahead.
I was talking. Listen, Chris, I'm not delegitimizing.
You were not muted. Don't know what happened.
Sorry, what I was trying to say, Chris, is that it is a lie. And trust me, I have turned so many voters who thought that they were for DeSantis because of the vaccine issue back into voting for Trump, because I've shown them the light and I've shown them the evidence. Ron DeSantis has said publicly that he is against the vaccine. He has said that he wants a grand jury investigation after he pushed for the vaccine. But that's what he says publicly to appeal to voters, because he thinks that he's going to try to run to the right of Donald Trump on these issues. However, last week, I don't know if you're aware of this, Ron DeSantis had a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. that was hosted by a lobbyist by the name of Mark
and we're just
Lampkin,
eating
who
our
is
popcorn.
a lobbyist for Moderna, one of the largest manufacturers of the COVID-19 vaccine. Not even that, worse than that, rather. Mark Lampkin is a lobbyist for a company called AbbVie, which is the manufacturer of the child castration drug Lupron. Okay, so Ron DeSantis will publicly say, "Okay, we're going to ban puberty blockers and we're going to end child
characterization of
like he did last
Lupron.
Friday
YouTube,
while
don't give me a
speaking to
strike.
bunch of
I don't
Christians
endorse
at
what
Faith
Loomer's
and
saying.
Let me say one more thing, and then I will go. Just Sphinx, earlier you mentioned that you had asked DeSantis supporters to stop in. And you don't seem to have any. Maybe you did earlier. I don't know, but this is why they don't come into the space.
No,
because I'm showing facts.
No, nobody's going to talk right now. No, that's not true. I sent people who are in the DeSantis War Room account, follows Max or whoever Max is or is not. Okay. I suggested certain people from there to come, because initially this conversation was about that. However, it's about Trump versus DeSantis, so it doesn't have to only be about Max being Brian Griffin or not. And I also told Max, because he said maybe Brian would like to come. I said, I think that would be a good idea. And I also said, how many phones you got? Just saying. But so I will say, I did say to him, I said, mainstream media will be here, stealth, in the audience. And, I know that Trump supporters will be there. I have invited several people I know that I respect.
Let me see who's in this
And
space.
it would be in your camp's best interest to have your voice heard as well. I'm saying that those people who I invited didn't come. So yes, Laura has her way of speaking, and we are going to move forward now. And Chris, you're welcome to stay and speak. And I don't think that you were interrupted that time that you said, I hope I don't get interrupted. You weren't interrupted. I want to go to Matt. So Matt's been waiting.
I don't see anyone really important
go ahead,
in here.
Matt.
I could be wrong though.
Thank you, Spinks, for this space. I appreciate the time. I think a lot of people are focusing on a tree and not the forest. You know, I go back and forth with Trump just for the fact that, you know, I wish he would let the last election go. That's just my personal opinion.
Trump can never let it go.
Let it go and
Trump
move
can never
forward.
give in.
Gotta
Never
move
bend the
forward.
knee to a mob.
And the reason why I say that is
Even if you're wrong,
it's
don't do it.
not
Not
really
worth it.
going to change anybody's stance at this point. It really is not. It's just not. And what I like about what Trump did is he exposed how bad the deep state is. And with that being said, he alone cannot dismantle it. It took a generation to build this. It started probably, I would say, back LBJ coming into Kissinger, and especially ramped up during the Clinton era. And so the deep state has been here for years. It took a generation or two to build. It's going to take a generation or two to dismantle. This has tentacles. This does not just go at the federal level. Can't take what you said, Chris, and say, fire this person, fire that person. You were talking about thousands of people that are going from a federal to a state to a local through the RNC, through the DNC, through the federal government that follow lockstep by their leaders. So this does not just end with one presidency or two presidencies from Trump. It's going to take several presidencies to dismantle this. And that's just the way I look at it, because they spent years building this up, guys. Years. You know, put the DNC put their stuff in order of how they need to do to solidify doing their choice of candidates, not, you know, knocking down third-party votes or third-party candidates, and, you know, excommunicating them, not allowing them to debate, not allowing the DNC candidates to debate the chosen candidate. Same with RNC. These guys, I mean, RNC, DNC, they're machines. They're corporation-run type, you know, entities that really don't take the individual voter into account. They put who they want in. They always have done that for the last 30 years at least, probably more, and it's not going to stop. And that's really just kind of how I think about it. If I have to look at Trump versus DeSantis, I think DeSantis is a puppet. I don't think I think he's just going to follow what the establishment says to do. Trump will go in and do a wrecking ball thing again, what he did before, which is needed, in my opinion. But he really needs to get off the last election because it's over with. And that's just how I see it. And thanks for the time.
Hey, Matt, I have a question for you.
If I can do a quick comeback since he addressed me.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, and then Monica, and then I want to say something.
I don't agree that you ignore the election fraud. I mean, even if DeSantis becomes the nominee, he's going to have to deal with it. It's out there. It's Democrat election fraud. It's an organized machine. It's happening. It's not just 2020. It happened in 2022. It's going to happen again in 2024 because the laws have to be changed. We can't ignore it.
I didn't say it didn't happen. That's not what I said. I believe
it's got to be done. It's got to be done.
It was, you know what? You know how it would happen? It happened legally through ballot harvesting. There are 30-something states that allow that. Biden won legally through ballot harvesting. That's how it was done.
There's no way
it
Biden
was.
got 81 million legal votes. No
No,
way.
but through ballot harvesting, y'all don't believe that? Yeah, you don't think
you don't think
2,000 mules
no
has
way.
you don't think 2,000 mules has any merit whatsoever? None.
2,000 mules shows fraud.
Shows ballot
Huh?
harvesting.
No, yes, it shows fraud. He did it legally.
He chose
2,000
ballot
mules.
Legally, not legally.
How many states? How many states?
Why
How
do
many
you
states?
Why do you need to drive around to 20
No.
different drop boxes
How
if you're doing
many
it legally?
states?
Okay, I'm gonna do one mic. So Chris, please finish speaking, and then Matt can talk, and then we'll be done with this. Go ahead. Chris, go ahead.
You have to unmute again because Sphinx muted everybody, so you have to unmute.
Yeah, I was still muted. I couldn't unmute. Listen,
Yeah, the app's
2,000
glitching.
mules.
Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
2,000 mules shows massive fraud enough to have changed the outcome of the election. The
And I agree.
fact checks on 2,000 mules are ridiculous. Okay. I've shredded those in my Substack. All right. The fraud is real. It's going to have to be dealt with. And if anything, I've seen the mistake of Desantis supporters is trying to dismiss that fraud out of dislike for Trump. That's ridiculous. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I know he won in 2020. He got cheated out of it. Never, ever pretend that didn't happen.
Okay, thank you. Matt, did you want to say something else to that? Okay, Monica, go ahead.
Well, if we're going to switch gears, that's fine. I was just to the broader point of Matt pretty much represents, the broader and Matt, I don't know you from Adam, but what you represent is a broader mindset of the establishment, right? Which is move on. And we heard that here in the state of Georgia, literally 2 days after the election, when Georgia in the GOP, not David Schaefer specifically, but others ancillary too, and surrounding counties where they were actually having problems with their elections that were known, were already as they were stumping for, trying to press on to the special the runoff with David Perdue. Or Leffler, and they were already move on, right? We got to move on from Trump. It's done. It's toast. We got to move on. And so it's interesting because you said, we got to move on from it, and then we need to focus on this, but we know there's fraud. And it was kind of a question I was going to get back to Laura at the beginning of whenever I came in, and Laura was saying, and she represents millions of voters, coincidentally. And Matt, you sound like this too, where it's like, well, we got to move on, but there was a lot of fraud. Okay. And I've lost hope in the system, and hopium sucks, and we can't keep giving people hopium. But if that's the case, and we all know that the election grid is compromised on a number of levels, imagine how literally schizophrenic we sound. And I mean, with all due respect, in spaces like this, where it's like, we're going at each other about opposition research, DeSantis, Trump, this guy sucks, this guy's a liar, this guy's a fraud, this guy's a shyster. Oh, but by the way, I have zero hope in the system at all. So I guess my question to all of you is, what the hell are we doing here if that's how you really feel?
Yeah, but if there's such election fraud going on and it's rampant, how did Hillary Clinton lose to Trump in 2016?
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I believe Trump won in 2020. What I'm trying to tell y'all is Biden won legally through ballot harvesting, and which totally got him his 81 million votes. Which is a fraud. It's a total fraud. It's a total sham. There are
But
30
you're
something
suggesting that ballot harvesting represents like 90% of the fraud, and that is absolutely
No,
inaccurate.
I'm not suggesting that whatsoever, but it got him over that hump. That's what I'm suggesting. It got him enough votes to get him over that hump.
I would disagree with that. I mean, we didn't have ballot harvesting.
Okay, but there's 30-something states that allow it.
It didn't take 30-something states, though, Matt. It took It took the swing states. It didn't take the entire country to swing the election.
Okay, well, regardless, they still the votes still came in as Biden on the ballot harvesting.
You're assuming
90.
that those are actually legitimate votes. I mean, that's what I'm telling you.
They're not legitimate. I'm not assuming they're legitimate. I'm saying they're illegitimate. But the state allowed them to do it.
Well, Matt, how did he win legally if they were illegitimate? That's what she's getting at.
Because the state allowed it legally, and the states won't turn around and do their own audit. They won't do it. They're part of they're part of the system. They're part of the grand system. They follow the RNC. They follow the DNC. They're not going to do their own audit and expose themselves.
I do want to answer. I want to address Lev because I think he just opened his mic and addressed me. So how did Hillary Clinton not win in 2016, right? Well, first of all, we didn't have the entire COVID apparatus deployed at that time. So COVID was a main factor in how we ended up with absentee ballots from hell. The Secretary of State's office in the state of where I reside not cleansing their rolls for 2 years leading up to that election, knew that needed to be purged and did not happen. Still lying about it, coincidentally. Using Dominion voting machines, which have now under court order that's just recently been released, showed, and the Democrats, coincidentally, Lev, and you know this, did a fantastic job of proving to us through their little shilhari that our friend from the Netherlands telling us exactly how Dominion is completely penetrable, right? That was on the Democrats, not us, not quote election deniers, and that occurred in 2017. So they came immediately out to say this is how it's done. So how was that? How did we end up with what we did in 2020? Well, COVID, in my humble opinion, and in everything that I've assessed, was the primary instigator and exactly how we ended up with what we did. And states, and I'll finish with this, states just like mine, for those of you who are like, oh, but our states went back to the drawing board and now we have new laws. Bullshit. You don't have, you may have new laws,
bullshit, Monica,
but they never adhered to their original laws. So that's a problem. So it was a multifaceted a takedown, in my humble opinion, not of Donald Trump. Can we please quit saying that? It was not a takedown of Donald Trump. It was a takedown of the United States of America. And that is really important to drive home to people, especially if you're going to reach people who don't give a damn about elections and they don't really know what's going on, but they know they can't afford their lives. That's a problem.
Well, and one thing I want to speak to that, Monica, just one real quick thing on that note.
I'm going to have to go.
Oh no, Loomer has to go.
No, Laura, I have a question for you real quick.
Let me just finish though really quickly on one thing.
There's no other reason to be doing the stream.
Shut up. Thank you. Please. Please. Thank you for coming, Laura. Young Desantis, bro, I brought you up. You're welcome to stay, but if she doesn't want to stay, I can't make her stay. So please don't interrupt. She's trying to thank me. And everyone's been saying mean stuff to me all day during this whole goddamn space. Okay?
Well, we love you, Sphinx.
Sphinx is crazy. This woman is nuts.
And thank you
I want
for
to see young
Laura.
people for DeSantis question,
Thank you
Loomer.
for everyone
Oh
for
no.
coming, by the way. And you guys, sometimes I talk like this. I'm a teddy bear. Gianni knows me.
No, I just
go ahead.
real quick. I just have.
Listen, youngin. Next time I'm gonna throw your ass down.
Let him talk. Let him ask the question. What are you
Laura,
doing?
I'll go to you before so you can leave, and then I'll have one statement just to make on the back of what Monica said.
Yeah, I'll take one last question and then I gotta go.
Go ahead, young man.
No, so Laura, I just wanted to ask if I could get Christina Pushaw in a debate against you. Would you be willing to come?
Yeah, I would debate her.
Yes.
But I think Roger Stone has already proposed this, and
Well, I know.
I would love to debate her also.
Okay, so you're willing to come though if I host it, correct?
No, he won't. Lev will not do it.
Not if you host it. It would have to be. I think that there should be like an actual debate, right? But yeah, I would be happy to debate Christina Pushaw.
What happens if I bring one?
Hold on a second. Young. Let me say something. if you're going to have a debate like that, you need to have it moderated professionally, meaning there needs to be a 3-minute intro by one person, 3-minute intro by another person, rebuttals. It needs to be done professionally, not like a space where everyone's going nuts.
And the host has to be neutral.
And the host needs to be, that's right, the host needs to be neutral, either in thought or be able to remain neutral in the space. Okay, so it's not going to be you, right? Because you're DeSantis. And it's going to have to be someone that both parties are okay with. So
in their
it's not
world,
going to be
Roger
someone
Stone
who's
is
really,
absolutely
really,
still
really
relevant.
pro-Trump.
That's
or
not to say he
Trump
actually
person's
is
best
still
friend
relevant, but in
either.
their world, he
So
is.
it's going to have to be someone who knows how to actually moderate. So if you want to DM Laura or Lev, go ahead by any means do that.
Now, just one thing to add on to the back on what Monica said.
I would love to moderate it because I'm not pro-Trump or pro-DeSantis.
Yeah.
So I would moderate it beautifully.
Like I said, I'm happy to debate anybody because as I've proven in these debates or these spaces in the past, right? People get very flustered when I show up with the facts and the receipts. And
Okay, so Laura, how about this?
Crybabies.
I will bring a Trump, full-on Trump supporter.
Yeah, but it's not going to be you.
Hey, youngin, go bring them here. Go bring the goods. Okay, leave my space right now. Bring the goods here. Stop advertising your whatever you're doing. Go bring them here. Show what you're made of. And if you do that, I'll let you back. Who's next?
This woman's crazy.
So
Does
just real
Loomer
quick,
have to
one thing I
go?
want to say off the back of what
Oh.
Monica said. I'm not going to make a statement on
No,
the vending machines.
I don't
I'll
want
let
that
the
job.
legal
Thank
courts
you,
of
though.
law in America do the statements on that. But it is important to note that anyone who makes a statement that a machine is impenetrable is always lying. There is no such thing as an electronic device that is unhackable. It's just a means of how hackable it is or how easy it is in the food chain to come after. So just wanted to make that one very short statement there.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chet,
thanks,
just to make
I'm heading
myself.
out. Bye, Sphinx. Bye, Chet.
Bye,
Thank you so
Laura.
much.
All
I'll
right.
hopefully be following you in a day. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up then because let's be honest, Laura Loomer was the only reason that we were listening. Okay, final thoughts. It's a shit show. I'm not voting for anyone except for Vivek. I will vote for Vivek in the Republican primary. He will not win the Republican primary. God willing, Trump does one smart thing in his life and makes Vivek the VP, which I don't think he will. I think he's going to make like Carrie Lake the VP. But, whatever. The shit show is so much more fun to watch when you don't really care. It's just all about the entertainment. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up for tonight. Thank you for those who joined me for Socialism Saturday. Thank you for those who joined me for impromptu shit show stream. I don't think I'm going to stream tomorrow because it's Sunday, but we will be doing movie night in the supporter Discord at 8 p.m. You can join the supporter Discord by heading over to my Substack, which is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up as a supporter for $5 a month, $50 a year. Link in the description below. You can also become a member of this here YouTube channel. You can become a member of my locals or my Patreon. All the links are down yonder somewhere. I'm going to go relax for the rest of my night, finish the rest of my orangey, seltzery drink. I hope you all have a great Saturday. Take care. We'll see you soon.